war in Gaza reaching one of its most pivotal points yet, what the Israelis call the most intense day of fighting since the war with Hamas began. The new signals about what happens next and why the UN says a hellish scenario is now unfolding. Plus, breaking news back here at home. Hundreds of military promotions just approved in literally the last couple of minutes after a nearly year-long blockade by a single Republican. So why did that senator just drop his objections? And what does that mean for military readiness now? Then, in Virginia, new details in the mystery of the exploding house. What else we're learning about the man whose standoff with police ended, apparently, in his death. And why Congress wants the FDA to tell them why it took so long to say a super popular ingredient in cold medicine doesn't actually work. And they're calling it the video game of not this year, not next year, but the year after that. Why a 90-second teaser trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 has gamers shook and may just save the industry. Later in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and right now the fighting inside Gaza is the most intense it's ever been so far in this war, as we are now getting some new clues late tonight about what could happen whenever it ends, with Israel saying today it should retain military control of Gaza instead of an international force doing that. The Israeli military focusing on southern Gaza in this new phase of the war, with the aerial and ground assaults expected to be just as severe as what we saw in the north, which is now essentially wiped out. Israel pushing ahead in its goal, its stated goal, to destroy Hamas. The Israeli president today telling NBC News the war against Hamas is meant to, in his words, save the values of Western civilization. Tonight, new questions and growing concern about the civilians still in the south of Gaza, with Israel reportedly firing off new attacks in some of the southernmost parts of Gaza. The UN warning about what they call an even more hellish scenario about to unfold. The backdrop here calls for accountability after accusations Hamas carried out widespread, systematic sexual violence against women in that October 7th terror attack on Israel. With our team reporting on graphic testimony from survivors and witnesses as Israeli women protest outside the United Nations. You see it here, furious that the international community, in their view, is not doing enough. I want to start on the ground live with Hallie for us in Tel Aviv. Hallie, one of the questions since this war began is what happens next? What happens if Israel does make good on its pledge to wipe out Hamas? What happens to Gaza? And tonight, we're getting some new signals on that front in just the last few hours. Tell us more.
Yeah, you mentioned what the prime minister said, that he believes Israel should maintain security control over the Gaza Strip. And this comes off the back of reports a couple of days ago that the Israeli government would want to maintain some sort of security buffer, but inside of Gaza territory, which is already a very small strip of land and densely populated. And there are concerns that that security buffer among some Western diplomats could become permanent. Now, we know that the United States, the Vice President Kamala Harris, Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, have all come out against the notion of taking Gaza territory or of engaging in mass displacement or expulsions of Palestinians inside the Gaza Strip. Palestinians are extremely concerned that this displacement, and in some cases it's happened more than once to residents of Gaza. They've gone from the north to the south. Some of them have been bombed in some of these southern areas that they were told would be safe and displaced once again. The concern is that Israel will maintain security control, will maintain a security buffer, completely seal off the Gaza Strip, and de facto annex some Gaza territory once this war is over. And lastly, I should say, when the Israeli government says its stated aim is to completely defeat Hamas, you will have many experts tell you that that in itself is a practically unattainable goal, especially considering that today, just as in way of illustration to that point, there were many rockets that were fired from the Gaza Strip, and some of them, in fact, over Tel Aviv, where we are right now.
Hallie, one of the other angles that you're reporting on tonight, of course, involves what we talked about a moment ago, these accounts of sexual violence from Israeli women who say they were raped, who say they were sexually abused by Hamas during that terror attack in Israel now just about 2 months ago. What else can you share?
Right. We've been working on this story. There have been, over the last several weeks, investigative efforts to piece together the horrific stories of sexual violence, assault, and rape committed against women and even some men on October 7th. We spoke to an advocate for the victims who is one of the people leading the investigation in the Israeli police forces about some of the cases that she was able to document with eyewitnesses on the ground. Listen to part of what she told us earlier today.
A woman who was in the festival, she made herself as if she was dead. She hid, and she saw the terrorists, the Hamas terrorists, raping a woman. She saw the woman naked. She saw one of them raping her, then passing her over to another one. During that, they were cutting off her breast, and she saw someone holding her breast like a bag.
Well, these are horrific accounts. We've heard more than one, and some human rights and women's rights advocates, including the head of a rape crisis center here in Tel Aviv, told us that they felt abandoned, that they don't believe that having sympathy for the Palestinian cause should mean dismissing some of these accounts of sexual assault against women on October 7th. Hallie.
Hala Garani, live for us there in Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for that important reporting tonight. Here at home, against the backdrop of that Israel-Hamas war and the tensions in this country as a result, the head of some of the most prominent universities in this country are now defending themselves in front of Congress, saying they're not letting their campuses get embroiled in toxicity and hate. Listen.
I have sought to confront hate while preserving free expression. This is difficult work, and I know that I have not always gotten it right. I have condemned anti-Semitism publicly, regularly, and in the strongest possible terms.
As an American, as a Jew, and as a human being, I abhor anti-Semitism.
I want to bring in Sahil Kapoor, who's covering this one for us on Capitol Hill. And it was a heated and emotional hearing today with one of the leaders of this committee saying that these three campuses are at the center of college anti-Semitism, essentially. You heard the defense from some of those leaders. Talk to us about what the goal is here and what else happened.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. This was a House Education and Workforce Committee hearing titled, quote, "Holding Campus Leaders Accountable and Confronting Anti-Semitism." And the goal was to ramp up PR pressure on these universities and put them on defense. These are private Ivy League institutions. Congress doesn't exactly control them, but there's also no love lost between the Republicans who control this committee and, these elite colleges. So that's part of what the chair of this panel, Virginia Fox, tried to do right at the outset, demanding that they explain some of the troubling incidents that we've seen on college campuses regarding anti-Semitism since that Hamas attack on Israel in October. All three of them, for Harvard, MIT, and UPenn, condemned anti-Semitism, as you just played there. Harvard's president told the committee she's deeply troubled by the inflammatory rhetoric on her campus, and they've taken steps to combat it, including bolstering security in student residence and launching a new training program for students, faculty, and staff on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So you heard there the campus leaders explaining themselves and charting out a path in response to that public pressure on them to do more.
Sahil, the question here is also how the students at these schools feel. They were not on Capitol Hill, but they're certainly out on campus.
That's right. We heard from some students today. 4 Jewish students stood at a House leadership presser and talked about how they believe that campus leaders aren't doing enough to protect their safety in light of these recent incidents. Let's play what one of them had to say.
Let me go back to being a scientist. Let me go back to being a student. I don't want to have to keep advocating for Jewish student safety on campus. It's not my job. It's your job. This is not just harassment. This is our lives on the line.
Now, it's worth noting, Hallie, in the heat of this moment, there are some who have tried to conflate legitimate criticisms of Israeli government policy and even U.S. policy to Israel with anti-Semitism. That is not what these students are talking about. They're talking about incidents where people have been targeted, where Jewish people have been targeted simply for being Jewish or for being Israeli. That has crossed the line from legitimate discourse into something more hateful.
Sahil Kapoor live for us there on the Hill. Sahil, thank you. Also in Washington, in just the last couple of minutes, literally right as we were coming up to the studio here, the Senate is doing what it hasn't been able to do in 10 months, approve hundreds of high-level military promotions, with the Pentagon now delighted but kind of scrambling after one senator mostly gave up on his crusade to block those promotions. We're talking about Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville tonight, saying he's going to drop his objections, he's going to release these holds and let those people jump into their new jobs after this long battle with the Defense Department over its abortion policies.
I'm releasing everybody. I still got a hold on, I think, 11 four-star generals. Everybody else is completely released from me. It was pretty much a draw. I mean, they didn't get what they wanted, we didn't get what we wanted.
What Tuberville wanted was a change to the Pentagon policy of reimbursing service members if they had to travel to a less restrictive state for abortion-related services. But what Tuberville got? A ton of backlash, including from some people in his own party, with defense officials warning over and over again this year that these holds were affecting the ability for the military to do what it needs to do. NBC's Dan DeLuce is following this for us. And truly, as you were walking in, I think, we were just getting word that it is official, that 400 plus, I believe, military promotions now after this very long battle had finally been greenlit. Not all of them, as you heard the senator say, there's still maybe a dozen that are out there at the highest level. Talk to us about the impact at the Pentagon, because they were learning about this at pretty much the same time as everybody else.
Big news at the Pentagon and big news for hundreds of these officers and their families. The Pentagon says this caused real damage. It caused hassles, and it really damaged morale. And so they're relieved that this hold is being lifted for the most part. Let's hear what Pentagon Press Secretary Pat Ryder said about all this.
As evidenced by everything that's going on in the world right now, we have a very important mission in terms of defending this nation. But when it's unclear whether or not your senior leaders are going to be in place at the time and place they're needed, that, of course, creates unnecessary friction and does have impact on readiness.
So, big relief at the Pentagon, and they say it affected readiness, that affected families financially, and it also affected morale. Junior officers look at this and say, do I really want to stay as a career when I see what the senior guys are going through?
It was essentially families in limbo here, too, as we have covered on the show repeatedly. Let me just ask you this. There are still those maybe 10 or 11 top military members who are on hold. How does that impact the rest of the playing field here? Like, if you're going to promote some people up, but then not these people, is that not problematic?
Totally problematic. Imagine any organization where the most senior level is sort of frozen and you have the deputies in charge and major military decisions have to be made. So it's still a problem. They're still not out of the woods.
So they're untangling even as we speak. Dan DeLuce, our national security correspondent, thank you very much for that. Let's take you out west, because tonight the weather out west just will not quit. You've got Oregon, Washington, Northern California getting totally slammed by 3 storms, with Amtrak saying in just the last few hours it is canceling all of its trains between Seattle and Portland through tomorrow morning. Tons of water is coming down from all these mountains with the rain falling and falling, flooding in the streets. You can see it there where people live and work. People have to wade through all this stuff today. There's a whole bunch of reasons behind this. The Pacific Northwest is getting warmer temperatures than it's used to. That is melting the snow that's come down in the past few weeks there. That snow is running off as water into these rivers, making them too full, creating all of these flooding risks. I want to get right to meteorologist Bill Cairns now. So rain and flooding over the past 24 hours, it's going to continue as these storms keep evolving as well. What's in store?
Hey, Hallie, if you didn't know what time of year it was, you'd say this must be springtime, right? Because we have all the snow melting, the rivers, the heavy rain. It's kind of strange that we're heading into winter and dealing with a storm like this, but that's what we can expect during, El Nino and these atmospheric rivers, very warm temperatures. So we had the snow over the weekend, then we just had this huge rainstorm last night in the Pacific Northwest. So we got all of that snow melting and the heavy rain on top of it, and the rivers have just skyrocketed. So this is a map that shows us our flood warnings are in the maroon, flood watchers are in green. So we don't have any flood warnings south of about Newport there in Oregon. All of our issues are to the north. And look, I mean, just look at Washington State here. So the Cascades are here. And so the Cascades, all the water is going to run down towards Seattle and the Sound area. So you can kind of picture, these are all the rivers with the flood warnings. And the highest water levels are in the Skagit, which is this river here, in the Snoqualmie, and also the Still-Guamish. That's this one. That's the one that just hit its all-time record crest. Those records go back to at least 1949, just to show you the significance of this event. Water has never been this high in the last 74 years on this river. So that's why you're seeing the pictures with homes and water in them. They had to evacuate a town that was surrounded by the water. About 200 people are being evacuated this afternoon here. So big deal. A lot of damage being done in this area. We have other rivers that we have new flood warnings that are developing, and a lot of these rivers will be cresting tomorrow because it's still raining in these areas. Thankfully, to the north, it has stopped from the Olympics, which are here, northern Cascades. All the heavy rain is Seattle southwards. So this is where we're still developing our flood problems, and we'll see how bad that gets overnight tonight and into tomorrow as the rain shield will slowly shift to the south. So how much additional rain are we going to get? Well, it looks like in the Cascades, those rivers I just mentioned, about another 2 to 4 inches of rain possible, and this goes out through Thursday. Most of the rivers, though, should be cresting tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon. The coastline of Oregon, that's where new flooding problems will be, around 2 to 4 Oregon coast and northern California, around 3 to 5, Hallie. So this has been, we thought this had a potential to be maybe moderate to major. In some areas, in some small towns, this is now historic.
Bill Cairns, thank you very much for that. I know we'll talk more next hour about the super El Nino factor of it all. Appreciate it. Stay in Virginia with some new details tonight on that stunning explosion that leveled a house surrounded by police in the northern part of that state, with officials tonight saying they believe the man inside died. Here's what happened. Look at this. That is almost unreal. I mean, the house basically just melted down. Police had shown up to investigate a man who they say had been firing off a flare gun dozens of times. But as they closed in, they heard shots fired. And then the house, you saw it there, just blew off its foundation, it looked like. Neighbors reported feeling shockwaves miles away, with some locals saying the homeowner, James Yu, was kind of a recluse who sometimes blocked out his windows with tinfoil. NBC's Tom Costello is following this one for us. Tom, new details tonight, with police saying they can't speculate on what may have set off that huge blast, the actual explosion. But there's a lot more coming out that we didn't know this morning. Talk us through it.
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to neighbors here who said that when they were watching this go down, they feared it was going to end badly, because some neighbors say he was, in fact, a recluse, and he had been kind of gathering some chemicals in and around his house. They didn't know what they were going to be used for. But as for the timeline here, here's what happened. Police said they got a call at about 4:45 in the afternoon when the neighbors were saying that this guy inside was firing off a flare gun, 30 shots already. Police arrived. They tried to ask him to come out of the house. He refused. They were on the phone with him. They were negotiating with him. Were trying to negotiate. Wasn't responding. The fire department also responded. A SWAT team arrived. The SWAT team then started trying to make a forceful entry after the fire department turned off the gas. The SWAT team fired tear gas in it. This was at about 8 o'clock. And then at 8:25 p.m., this massive explosion that you saw. We don't know, according to police, they don't yet know what caused the explosion. Clearly, he had a flare gun. We don't know how many rounds. We don't know what kind of fuel might have been inside. Unbelievably, nobody else was injured. No serious injuries with the police and firefighters outside. 10 homes were damaged. None of the nearby residents, individuals were injured. So, they really are counting their blessings here that nobody else was seriously injured. Mr. Yu himself did not have a known criminal record, but now they're looking for motivation. And the people I've talked to here say he acted very erratically. He covered up his windows with tinfoil, that he went online and made threats against neighbors, alleged some people were spies, alleged he was a spy. It just was kind of a crazy few years that just culminated last night.
Just an incredible scene, Tom. As we say, almost unbelievable. Thank you very much for being there and for those new details late tonight from officials. Appreciate it. Tonight, some new outrage in Alabama, with one community there demanding more be done after a video was posted online showing a local officer stun gunning a man who's handcuffed, who's crying. We're going to show you this video with a warning that it is difficult to watch.
You want it again? No, Shut up, you was big and bad.
That footage was taken by the man's brother. You can see more of it here as he and the officer walk to the car. That officer is now on leave while agencies investigate. We should note it is not clear what happened before or after this 45-second clip that we're showing you. The man's girlfriend talking with our station in Birmingham.
I couldn't do nothing but cry. I couldn't do nothing but cry.
I want to bring in Guad Venegas for more. Guad, what else do we know about what happened here?
Hallie, so we know that authorities have released information on the man detained, as 24-year-old Mika Washington. They also released the charges they are filing against him. One of those is resisting arrest, as well as obstructing government to operations, possession of marijuana, drug trafficking, ex-felon, and possession of a firearm as well. Now, this is what authorities are saying. We saw the video, as you mentioned. We saw what happened after the officer had handcuffed him and then walked him over to the car. Now, I was able to speak on the phone with his brother, who says he recorded that video, to ask him what happened. He tells me that they had stopped to change a tire on the vehicle that we can see. And when they were changing the tire, the officer arrived telling the group that she had been called to the scene or called to that area for some reason and asked him for an ID. The brother tells me that Mika refused to give his ID, had an argument with the officer, and at one point he did give the officer his ID. The officer then asked him to walk over to the car. Then there was a discussion where he was asking the officers if he was being placed under arrest or not. Again, this is what I was told by his brother over the phone. At some point, the officer pulled out the taser and tased them before that video was recorded. He tells me that he began recording the video after the officer used the taser. And then we can see what happened when she walks him over to the car and uses it once again. He also told me that today he was called by state authorities and he went in to speak to the Alabama Bureau of Investigations as this process continues. Hallie?
This video, the footage that you're talking about, Guad, has really upset, it seems, a lot of people in this area, in this community.
It has. And, this Monday, a group of them were protesting outside of City Hall. I spoke to the brother to try to understand what led to the argument and what led to the officer handcuffing him. But despite what would have happened, we see in the video the way the officer walks with him towards the vehicle, the language that is being used by the officer, and how apparently she continues to use the taser. And at some point, the man begins to cry. So a group of individuals, as I mentioned, went to City Hall to protest this Monday, and this is what one woman who was there had to say.
She needs to be fired, and I feel like she can leave and go somewhere else and do it if they don't hold her accountable for nothing.
So she's referring to the officer. What we know now is that she has been placed on administrative leave as this investigation continues. Local authorities have turned it over again to state authorities, and they will continue with this investigation. Hallie?
Guad Venegas, thank you very much for your coverage of that tonight. Back here in Washington, you've got the FBI director making a real plea for Congress to try to save a controversial surveillance law. I'm talking about Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It's shorthanded a lot as Section 702. It essentially lets the government keep a whole database of communications from so-called targets living abroad without needing a warrant to do that. Director Wray says this post-9/11 law is super important in the FBI's push to try to stop terror attacks in this country.
702 is key to our ability to detect a foreign terrorist organization overseas directing an operative here to carry out an attack in our own backyard.
We said controversial law, and we meant it. It is controversial. It has a lot of critics. We learned over the summer that some FBI agents used the database in ways that they shouldn't have, like finding information on targets related to January 6th and the 2020 racial justice protests. Congress has until the end of the year to reauthorize this law, but some on both sides of the aisle say they want to see it seriously changed first. We're going to stay on top of this story as it moves forward. Still ahead. Have you seen this yet? Jamie Foxx coming out publicly now, his first big speech since that mystery medical scare. What he's now saying that may surprise you about his months-long recovery. Plus, call it the rebundling. More streaming services now being offered together at a discount. What it means for you. The new plan getting floated to flat out pay college athletes straight from the head of the NCAA. That's coming up. But first, after years spent competing for subscriptions, some streamers are now forming partnerships. They're bundling their services with their sworn enemies. If not their sworn enemies, then at least their business rivals. Starting with Verizon, look at this. Their new My Plan customers are going to be able to pay just $10 a month for Netflix and Max. Now, it does include ads, but that's like a 40% discount from what people are paying now. This is one of the first times Netflix has ever offered this kind of bulk discount for the content it puts out there. Now, you may be saying, well, wait a second, Hallie, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus. That bundle has been around for a few years. So why is this new and a big deal? Well, think about the other one. All those other companies, Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN, they're all owned by Disney, at least in part. What makes Verizon's bundle different is that it's one of the first to offer two competitors bundled together. Christine Romans is joining us now. There's a lot to unpack in that, but let me start with, first of all, who actually wins? Is this good for customers or is this good for companies?
It may be both here. For customers, especially people who don't want to pay the full freight for these services and would like to watch with ads for a 40% discount, sure, that's a win for the family budget. But also for the streamers, of course, they just got 100 million maybe eyeballs, right? Or sets of eyeballs, because they have access now to all of those people that Verizon serves. And Verizon is the one that has the credit card numbers and has the accounts and is able to do all the marketing. And so this is just opens up a whole new host of people to try to get more subscribers for those two.
What's so interesting about this idea of bundling is, like, you know, the concept now is you pay one price, you get a bunch of different content. I'm old enough to remember when you paid one price and you got a bunch of different content, and we called it cable. I mean, the disruptor is now like the disrupted, it almost feels like.
It's almost like full circle, right? So the streamers were, you could choose which one you wanted to buy. You didn't have to buy the whole cable package, right? So you could choose what you wanted to buy, and it didn't have ads. Well, now we know that people are pretty cost conscious, right? So now you're going back to ads. You have all these different tiers of pricing. I think it's so interesting. And, you know, gosh, 87% of households have one or more streaming services. And I found when I was reporting the story that about 1/10 of households, 1 in 10 households, they have like at least 5. And I was talking to an executive at Verizon today who said their numbers are more like people right now have probably 5 that they're using, closer to 5. So even in the last year, we've been piling up on all of these different services. With all these different price points, though, it gets confusing, and there's a feeling that people are going to want more simplicity, right? And they're going to want to be able to cut the bill if they can.
I mean, like, you preach to the choir here, right? Like, we're on streaming right now, but I would love simplicity for, like, all of the other content out there. So do we think that other companies will start doing more of this, or is Verizon kind of uniquely positioned on this one?
I think absolutely yes, bundles is the way you're going to go. I've been talking to executives in this space all day today who say, look, they've been trying to find the secret sauce for this business model. As you know, it's been elusive. Netflix makes money. A lot of other companies have been playing a lot, you know, for programming and for content and to try to reach all of these eyeballs, but they haven't really been able to turn a profit. This might be the way, I think, now that they're thinking they're going to go. So I would be looking for more deals like this down the road.
Christine Romans, fascinating stuff. Thank you for breaking it down. Thank you so much.
How many do you have?
Can I tell you, this is going to be sad. I can barely turn my TV on, so I defer you to my partner in my household for that question. Probably 8. Like, no joke. We got them all, you know. So anyways, how many do you have?
I can't even count. I have 3 teenage boys, so we have any kind of sports network, we have it.
Okay, girl. Gotcha. Thank you again, Christine. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1. Police in the Bahamas have just now identified the American tourist killed in a shark attack there yesterday. They say she's 44 years old, Lauren Erickson Van Wart from Massachusetts. She was apparently paddleboarding near the Sandals Resort when it happened. Sandals says it is deeply saddened and that it's in close contact with her family. Number 2, a new lawsuit is blaming Panera Bread's charged lemonade for a second death now, alleging that a man from Florida had 3 of those drinks and then later died from cardiac arrest. The lawsuit says he had high blood pressure and avoided energy drinks. Panera says it stands firmly by the safety of our products. You might remember that this is just 2 months after a college student died after having the same drink. After that lawsuit, Panera put some warnings online to tell people to only drink that in moderation. Number 3, Jamie Foxx coming out, making his first big public appearance since that medical mystery sidelined him earlier this year. He accepted an award at a Critics' Choice event, saying he couldn't even walk 6 months ago, and that his experience left him with a new respect for life and for art. Number 4, the Supreme Court hearing a case today that could make it harder for Congress to put in place a future wealth tax. It looks into whether people can be forced to pay taxes on stakes in foreign-owned companies, even if they don't get any income from them. Number 5, you know what? The number one song in the Billboard's Hot 100 is the number 1. Brenda Lee, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. 65 years after it came out. It's just the 3rd holiday song to get the number 1 spot ever. She recorded this song when she was 13. She is now the oldest artist to ever be on top of that chart. That is very cool. Coming up here on this show, the race to save a truck driver who crashed on a Texas highway bridge. That's ahead in the local. Plus, a single tiny device turning semi-automatic weapons into effectively machine guns, how Americans are getting their hands on them, and the efforts to crack down on this potential threat in the original. A notorious house is still standing even after a fire on its property. More on that in the local in just a minute. But first, a grim record tonight, as 2 more shootings now make 2023 the worst year for mass shootings since people started measuring these nightmares back in 2006. The 2 this weekend happened within 90 minutes of each other, one in Texas, the other in Washington state. In all, 9 people were killed, including a toddler, bringing the total number of mass shootings this year to 38. According to the Washington Post. Law enforcement now also sounding the alarm over more and more use of a device called a switch, which they say puts even more lives at risk. It's a tiny piece of plastic that turns a semi-automatic firearm into essentially one pull of the trigger and a machine gun. NBC's Ken Delanian has more.
Officer William Jeffrey knew danger lurked on the other side of the door, but he never expected this.
Dion, it's Houston Police. Let's do this thing.
Before he could get those words out, cut down by a burst of gunfire.
Somebody get Bill!
One of many victims of what police say is a growing threat, firearms illegally modified to shoot like machine guns.
My dad thought that he was Superman for Houston. I always said he had Superman syndrome. He thought that if he wasn't at work, the city was going to crumble without him. He loved being able to serve his community.
Jeffrey's daughter, Lacey, still grieving, says she was stunned to learn about the weapon that killed her father.
My father was shot more than a dozen times. Sorry. The amount of bullets that he was able to fire off in a matter of 10 seconds, as opposed to only pulling the trigger once and having to reload and doing it again. My dad could have probably gotten out of the way. He probably could have moved. But he didn't have a chance because of the rapid fire. He didn't stand a chance.
From his perch at the head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms,
Special agents.
Former federal prosecutor Stephen Dettelbach is the chief enforcer of the nation's gun laws.
Now, machine guns have been against the law in the United States, new machine guns, since 1934, the days of Al Capone and the Tommy gun. But we're seeing them all over the place.
Dettelbach invited us to a law enforcement gun range in Washington, D.C. to see how easily legal guns can be illegally modified and how dangerous those modified guns can be.
This is an example of a drop-in auto series. It's a machine gun conversion device. It looks like a small piece of plastic. It's deadly. The reason why is it just drops right into an AR and makes a lethal weapon. All you have to do is open up the AR, drop it in the appropriate place, close it, and you have an item that can kill scores of people in a second.
And people are buying these online, they're buying these from overseas.
They're buying these online, they're buying these from overseas, they're 3D printing them.
Here's a standard handgun, 1 round fired for every pull of the trigger. Here's that same gun, illegally modified. Similar devices modify assault rifles like the AR-15.
I talked to state and local police chiefs, sheriffs,
our partners in federal law enforcement, they tell me to a person, it's raining switches.
Earlier this year, police in Pennsylvania were chasing a suspect
Watch that corner.
who had just killed a local police chief when he opened fire using a modified Glock. Police killed the assailant in a shootout.
Get on the ground. Let me see your hands.
Authorities say switches like the one used in that gun have been flooding in from China, but also made at home.
I sat in a room, a printer that cost just shy of $200 sat there buzzing in the background for 30 to 40 minutes, and when it was done, a machine gun had been created.
An ATF report on crime guns found that the number of recovered machine gun conversion devices from 2017 to 2021 went up 570%.
He was more than just a cop. My dad was a great man.
Lacey Jeffrey, who used to get rides in her father's squad car, is among those pushing for tougher penalties for criminals who sell and use modification devices.
And if we can just harshen the punishments for these criminals that are getting caught with them and keep them behind bars longer, I feel like it's extremely important, and it would be very helpful for our communities.
Ken Delanian is joining us now with more on this important reporting. Ken, the ATF director was very clear with you. This problem is getting worse. They're concerned about it. What can they do from a solution perspective, short of an act of law, an act of Congress?
You know, Hallie, the reality is these things are already illegal. The ATF just doesn't have enough agents to do the kind of nationwide enforcement that is necessary. There have been some calls from lawmakers that the ATF should change gun regulations and require makers like Glock to make this more difficult to accomplish, to change the designs of their guns. But that's a controversial step, and the ATF is in a number of regulatory battles right now with the gun industry and gun dealers, and there just isn't the political appetite, it seems, to take that on. The reality is it's really difficult to regulate guns in this country, even when people are doing things that are illegal, Hallie.
Ken Delanian, thank you very much for that. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Northeast Bureau, the ex-girlfriend of actor Jonathan Majors testifying today at his trial in New York, where he's accused of domestic assault. She broke down several times, saying she felt scared of him. Majors has pleaded not guilty, and his attorney argues it's the ex who actually assaulted him. Out of our Southern Bureau, rescuers in Texas, look at this, pulling a driver out of a dangling truck. It's like, I mean, that's the truck hanging off a bridge in Dallas. The driver's still inside. Obviously, some kind of crash here. The teams managed to get the driver out and say, incredibly, he's expected to be okay. No word yet on why this crash happened in the first place. Also out of our Northeast Bureau, a barn caught fire at the Rhode Island property that inspired the 2013 scary movie The Conjuring. The actual Conjuring house was not damaged. Officials still don't know what started the fire, but no people or spirits apparently were hurt. So the president of the NCAA today proposing what could be the most radical plan yet to reshape college sports. He says he wants to make a new tier of D1 schools where schools would pay those athletes directly. So again, college athletes getting paid by schools. If the schools agree to these deals, they'd get into NIL licensing deals, name, image, likeness deals, right with the athletes themselves. Remember, we've been following this story about that fight over NIL. Our Noah Pransky talked with Baker about it, and Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, and the conflicts around it just last month, and is joining us now. Noah, it's a story that you have been the tip of the spear on for our show from the reporting perspective. So now today, this pretty stunning announcement, right? How would this work? What would it mean? Help us understand it.
So I think it's safe to say amateurism is dead at this point. Basically, the NCAA president proposed a set of rules that would allow big-time, basically football schools across the country to opt into a super division. They would then set aside millions and millions of dollars for student athletes. They could basically pay them whatever they wanted, and then they would create their own rules for that super division, and they would fully separate essentially from the rules as we know for D1. Why is this necessary? Well, Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, told me basically the NCAA is becoming a wild, wild west. We have athletes transferring as free agents. We have money flying around. Nobody can even keep track. He told me back in the end of October that this is a way to try and corral those abuses.
Football right now, and men's and women's basketball, is paying for an enormous amount of other sports that we care about a lot. It's paying for all those non-revenue sports that are about Olympic participation, that are about the growth in women's sports generally. And so for us, again, we got to figure out what the framework is that makes it possible for everybody to live together.
He says that framework will help preserve opportunities for athletes moving forward, and then he's calling on Congress to help solidify these and, you know, put them in writing so that they can't be changed down the road.
Okay, so, but in plain English, right, does this mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this like good news for very rich schools, not so good news for the ones with less money?
I don't think it's that clear cut. It's nuanced. So if I'm a fan of Ohio State or Texas or the really richest schools out there, I'm thrilled because the rich will get richer. If I'm a fan of a small school, maybe D2, D3, or a really small D1 school, maybe I'm also thrilled because this could help protect those programs. But if I'm a program, you know, Boston College, Virginia Tech, one of like kind of the mid-ranked football schools, this could be trouble because as the rich get richer, the schools that don't have those huge resources are not going to be well positioned to compete. Now, let's look at some of the reaction today that we saw online. Ohio State's athletic director, Geno Smith, really just glowing. Thank you, 100% supportive. But let's compare that to another reaction, Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is a well-resourced school, but not quite like Ohio State. And this reaction from their athletic director, a little more, you know, tepid. We have much work to do here, and that reemphasizes the fact that this is just a proposal. There will be pushback from a lot of schools. We'll see where the final lines land.
We've also covered NIL a lot on this show from the perspective of the athletes, right? And there are going to be some athletes here who may not be in line for these like humongo deals. What does it mean for the players themselves?
So there's some good news and some maybe questions here. One of the proposals that Charlie Baker laid out says Title IX must be enforced. So if you're going to pay a football player $20 million, that means $20 million in the way it appears, also needs to go to female athletes. So it is a way to really lift some of the female athletes who may not be getting big paychecks. But at the same time, there are questions. Will this trickle all the way down to all the sports, or will it be concentrated in just the big sports? Hallie, we'll see.
Noah Pransky, and when we do, you will let us know, I'm sure. Thank you so much. Coming up here on the show, trying to get health experts to cough up answers about cold medicines, why some of these drugs are still on store shelves if they don't really do anything. That's the question Congress is asking after the break. So we're just hearing from the FDA in the last couple of minutes, responding to a letter from Congress that basically says, come and explain why it took so long to tell people that an ingredient in popular cold medicines doesn't actually work. Remember, we told you about this months ago when the FDA said that after decades on the market, certain over-the-counter drugs that are supposed to help with congestion, things that include phenylephrine that the FDA says is no more effective in treating your stuffy nose than basically a placebo, than a hope and a dream. So, okay, this drug doesn't work. Now, House Republicans are leading the charge to try to get FDA officials up to Capitol Hill to explain what took so long to tell people that all this medicine you've been buying over the counter for decades really isn't going to help you that much. Dr. Natalie Azar is joining us now. So, then what should we be doing?
You know what, Hallie, there are things that we can do, but just to touch on your point of how is it taking this long, it's been since 2007 since the FDA has been evaluating the efficacy data. And so we are all very anxious to hear how the FDA is going to decide on this. You know, the advisory committee is the one that said that these medications are no better than placebo. The FDA has not officially made that determination yet. So, you know, all eyes and ears are on that. In terms of other things you can do nasal antihistamines, you can do nasal steroid, you can do nasal saline rinses, you can do neti pots with sterile water. Remember, the medicine that was deemed ineffective is oral phenylephrine. That's oral decongestant. There is still a nasal decongestant that's still available. However, experts say only use it for no more than 3 days because it can cause rebound congestion.
Why would the FDA not say, okay, drugstores, get this stuff off your shelves? Because there's some companies like Walgreens, Rite Aid that are essentially saying, unless there's a mandate, like they're just going to keep selling it. What's the plan?
Well, listen, I mean, those pharmacies, I'm assuming, I'm not going to speak for them, but I'm assuming it's money is the bottom line there. CVS voluntarily recalled only Sudafed PE, and they specifically said that we're only taking off the counter, off the shelves, products that contain only phenylephrine. Everything else is still there, Hallie. So Tylenol that also contains phenylephrine, other combination cough and cold medicines, they're still selling that as well. You know, CVS basically said we're trying to follow the FDA advisory committee's guidance here, and if the medicine is no better than placebo, we're not going to sell it to our consumers. But it's a mess. I mean, this determination came down in September. Now we're 3 months later, and the FDA has still not made its final decision. You know, I think I'm being generous when I say that they have been moving very slowly on this, but you know, I think all of us really want to hear them see and hear them do the right thing here, and probably no longer give these medications their seal of over-the-counter approval.
Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you very much for breaking that down. Lots of good info there. Tonight, the war in Gaza reaching one of its most pivotal points yet, what the Israelis call the most intense day of fighting since that war with Hamas began. The new signals about what happens next and why the UN says a hellish scenario is now unfolding. Plus, here at home, the West getting smashed by severe weather. Why temperatures warming up could mean such dangerous flooding conditions for people there. We've got the forecast and a report from the region. Plus, some good news if you subscribe to every streaming service under the sun. How one company is trying to revolutionize the bundle game. Doesn't that sound a lot like cable? Then, college sports could be cutting out the middleman. The new plan from the NCAA that would see some schools put money directly in the pockets of athletes. And in tonight's original, a grim milestone, 2023. Now the worst year on record for mass shootings. We'll take you inside the growing push to crack down on a piece of plastic that turns one trigger pull into a spray of bullets. That's later in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and right now the fighting inside Gaza is the most intense it has ever been so far in this war, as we're getting some new clues about what could happen whenever it ends, with Israel saying late today it should retain military control of Gaza instead of having an international force do that. The Israeli military is focusing on the southern Gaza in this new phase, they say, with these aerial and ground assaults expected to be just as severe as what we saw in the north, which is now essentially wiped out. Israel is moving ahead in its goal to destroy Hamas, with the Israeli president today telling NBC that this war is meant to, in his words, save the values of Western civilization. Tonight, new questions and growing concern about the innocent people who are still in southern Gaza, with Israel reportedly firing off new attacks in that area, and the UN warning about what they call an even more hellish scenario about to unfold. The backdrop to this calls for accountability after accusations Hamas carried out widespread, systematic sexual violence against women in the October 7th terror attack on Israel, with our team reporting on graphic testimony from survivors and witnesses. As Israeli women protest outside the United Nations, they are furious that the international community, in their view, is not doing enough. We'll start tonight with Hallie Garani live for us in Tel Aviv. Hallie, one of the questions since this war began is what happens next? What happens if Israel does make good on its pledge to wipe out Hamas? What happens to Gaza? And tonight, we're getting some new signals on that front in just the last few hours. Tell us more.
Yeah, you mentioned what the prime minister said, that he believes Israel should maintain security control over the Gaza Strip. And this comes off the back of reports a couple of days ago that the Israeli government would want to maintain some sort of security buffer, but inside of Gaza territory, which is already a very small strip of land and densely populated. And there are concerns that that security buffer among some Western diplomats could become permanent. Now, we know that the United States, the Vice President Kamala Harris, Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, have all come out against the notion of taking Gaza territory or of engaging in mass displacement or expulsions of Palestinians inside the Gaza Strip. Palestinians are extremely concerned that this displacement, and in some cases it's happened more than once to residents of Gaza. They've gone from the north to the south. Some of them have been bombed in some of these southern areas that they were told would be safe and displaced once again. The concern is that Israel will maintain security control, will maintain a security buffer, completely seal off the Gaza Strip, and de facto annex some Gaza territory once this war is over. And lastly, I should say, when the Israeli government says its stated aim is to completely defeat Hamas, you will have many experts tell you that that in itself is a practically unattainable goal, especially considering that today, just as in way of illustration to that point, there were many rockets that were fired from the Gaza Strip, and some of them, in fact, over Tel Aviv, where we are right now.
Hala, one of the other angles that you're reporting on tonight, of course, involves what we talked about a moment ago, these accounts of sexual violence from Israeli women who say they were raped, who say they were sexually abused by Hamas during that terror attack in Israel now just about 2 months ago. What else can you share?
Right. We've been working on this story. There have been, over the last several weeks, investigative efforts to piece together the horrific stories of sexual violence, assault, and rape committed against women and even some men on October 7th. We spoke to an advocate for the victims, who is one of the people leading the investigation in the Israeli police forces, about some of the cases that she was able to document with eyewitnesses on the ground. Listen to part of what she told us earlier today.
A woman who was in the festival, she made herself as if she was dead. She hid, and she saw the terrorists, the Hamas terrorists, raping a woman. She saw the woman naked. She saw one of them raping her, then passing her over to another one. During that, they were cutting off her breast, and she saw someone holding her breast like a bag.
Well, these are horrific accounts. We've heard more than one, and some human rights and women's rights advocates, including the head of a rape crisis center here in Tel Aviv, told us that they felt abandoned, that they don't believe that having sympathy for the Palestinian cause should mean dismissing some of these accounts of sexual assault against women on October 7th. Hallie.
Hala Garani, live for us there in Tel Aviv. Thank you so much. Here at home, against the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas war and the tensions in the U.S. as a result, the heads of some of the country's most prominent universities are now defending themselves in front of Congress, saying they are not letting their campuses get embroiled in toxicity and hate.
I have sought to confront hate while preserving free expression. This is difficult work, and I know that I have not always gotten it right. I have condemned anti-Semitism publicly, regularly, and in the strongest possible terms.
As an American, as a Jew, and as a human being, I abhor anti-Semitism.
I want to bring in Sahel Kapoor, who's live for us tonight on Capitol Hill. So, Sahel, the leader of this House committee, says these three specific campuses here are at the center of college anti-Semitism. Walk us through what's going down, what the goal is, what students are saying.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. The goal is to ramp up pressure on these three Ivy League institutions to do more to combat various incidents of anti-Semitism we've seen on college campuses across the country. The chair of the panel, Virginia Fox, started by saying they need to answer and, in her words, atone for these instances. These are college presidents from Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania. They all spoke at the panel. They all condemned anti-Semitism and talked about what they are doing to try to combat it. And meanwhile, several Jewish students spoke next to House Republican leadership at a press conference earlier, talking about their own experiences being targeted. Let's play what they had to say.
Let me go back to being a scientist. Let me go back to being a student. I don't want to have to keep advocating for Jewish student safety on campus. It's not my job. It's your job. This is not just harassment. This is our lives on the line.
Now, the Harvard president told the committee that she's deeply troubled by instances of inflammatory rhetoric on campus, talked about various steps that Harvard is taking to combat this, including strengthening security in student residences, including setting up a new training program for faculty, students, and staff that includes anti-Semitism as well as Islamophobia. Hallie.
There's also, Sahel, some news coming into us as it relates to, obviously, a different war, a different regional conflict, and that is the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and specifically how the U.S. should pay to help Ukraine. Things got, it sounds like, based on this new reporting, super tense, with one senator saying he's never seen this kind of tension, this kind of anger in this classified setting before, and apparently somebody yelling at one of the generals who came over to talk to lawmakers. What happened?
That's right, Hallie. This was a Senate briefing late afternoon that got very heated per multiple senators we spoke to. It was about foreign aid, specifically with a focus on Ukraine. And Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader, said his Republican counterpart, Mitch McConnell, tried to hijack it early on to shift the conversation to border policy, which Republicans have tried to focus on. One Republican senator told me Schumer got into a back and forth, a heated back and forth with multiple senators, accused them of holding the bill, the aid package, hostage to their unrelated border and immigration demands. Republicans countered that it was President Biden who put border funding in this measure, so they said it was hardly something that was out of the blue. Tomorrow, the Senate is expected to vote a procedural vote to advance that $106 billion package. Republicans have pledged to filibuster it. It does not have the votes, and the entire fate of aid to Ukraine, Israel, assistance to Taiwan, and that border funding could be derailed.
Sahel Kapoor, live for us on the Hill with lots going on tonight. Sahel, thank you. Lots going on is an understatement, because in just the last couple of minutes here, President Biden is out with his first reaction as the Senate is now doing what it hasn't been able to do in 10 months, approve hundreds of high-level military promotions, with President Biden saying that 425 highly qualified patriotic military leaders have now been confirmed by the Senate, later calling Senator Tommy Tuberville's blockade pointless. That is because Tuberville has now dropped his opposition to these promotions. He's saying he's going to release the holds and let these folks jump into their new jobs after a months-long battle with the Defense Department over its abortion policies. Listen.
I'm releasing everybody. I still got a hold on, I think, 11 four-star generals. Everybody else is completely released from me. It was pretty much a draw. I mean, they didn't get what they wanted. We didn't get what we wanted.
What Tuberville wanted, a change to the Pentagon policy of reimbursing service members if they had to travel to a less restrictive state for abortion-related services. But what Tuberville got was a ton of backlash, including from some in his own party, with defense officials warning over and over again that these holds were affecting the ability for the military to do what it needs to do. I want to bring in Dan DeLuce, our national security correspondent, who's joining us here. And Dan, let me read you a bit of what the president is saying. Again, coming into us in the last 25 seconds, basically. He says, in the end, this was all pointless. Was it?
I don't think the senator from Alabama accomplished much according to his own agenda. I don't know what the football analogy is, maybe a safety, right? He got no concessions from the Pentagon administration at all.
And that's what he wanted. He wanted a change to this policy. He didn't get any change.
Policy did not change one iota, and he really angered and irritated his own party. And some of his fellow Republicans were really worried about the political effect back home among their own constituents.
To be clear, Senator Tuberville was in many ways backed into a corner on this. Republicans had said, all right, if you don't drop this opposition, we're going to change the rules to effectively drop it for you.
That's right. So he was completely backed in a corner. This was a defeat. He was just sacked in the end zone, okay? Now, in the meantime...
He's a former football coach, thus the football analogy is Dan, yes.
But, I mean, seriously, though, I think the Pentagon did not think this was a laughing matter at all.
No,
right?
yeah.
And they say it really did affect morale. It affected readiness. And, you know, for these families, these are hundreds of families we're talking about. Imagine trying to figure out where you're going to live. You were told you're going to move across country or to another continent, to Asia, to Europe, and then you're told, well, no, not yet. And you have family, you have children, so it was a financial, logistical burden on people, too.
The Pentagon tonight is responding now because most of the holds have been dropped, meaning all those people got promoted, 400-plus people. There's like 10 or 11 of the highest-ranking service members here who are still on hold, right? They're going to go sort of one by one. How does that sort of affect the grid?
I mean, hopefully the Senate thinks they can get through this in a matter of days. But yes, in the meantime, you still have this top tier management, if you will, who are blocked or paralyzed. So their deputies are in charge. So you can imagine decisions don't get taken. Things get postponed, delayed, like in any organization. And we're talking about the U.S. military. You want your leadership in place.
And there's just been months and months of delays.
Bottom line tonight, though, based on the people you're talking to at the Pentagon, good news?
Oh, this is a huge sigh of relief for them and for the individuals involved.
Dan DeLuce, thank you so much for that. Tonight, the weather in the West just will not quit, with Oregon, Washington, Northern California all getting totally slammed by 3 storms. Amtrak late today saying it's canceling all its service between Seattle and Portland until tomorrow. You've got tons of water rushing down from the mountains, tons of rain coming down. You see it here, flooding in the streets. And there are a bunch of reasons for this. Mostly, it's that the Pacific Northwest is getting warmer weather than it's used to. That warmer weather is melting the snow that is falling, snow that is now melting into rivers, creating, obviously, rivers rising and the flooding that you're seeing. We've got our team all over this for you. Brady Wakayama from our KING affiliate on the ground in Seattle. Meteorologist Bill Cairns is with us as well. Let's start with Brady.
A flood warning is in effect. We're in a neighborhood just west of Granite Falls. If you just take a look behind me, we're just less than a half a mile away from the South Fork Still-Guamish River. And as you can see, there's about 1.5 feet of water sitting in this roadway. This is video we got from a Granite Falls viewer. According to the viewer, this video is from a neighborhood that's off Jordan Road in Granite Falls, directly next to the bridge where the creek meets the South Fork of the river. From that video, you can see there's a little more than 1.5 feet of water flowing. And the viewer told us it's continuing to rise with multiple houses now flooded. I did see 2 men who work at the hatchery nearby walking through this flooding. Here's what one of them had to say.
That's pretty good flooding. I don't recall seeing it to this level in the 5 years I've been here.
And the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office biggest piece of advice if you ever encounter something like this is to turn around and don't drown. Now, they did post several pictures on their X account of similar situations like this and similar closures throughout this area. For now, reporting in Granite Falls, Washington, I'm Brady Wakayama. Back to you.
Our thanks to Brady for that. Bill Cairns, let me bring you in here because there's a lot. There's a lot coming, and it's related to, as you call it, the super El Nino year that we're heading into. Talk us through it.
Yes, let me tell you what we expect. So this graph just shows you, this was 12 months ago, blue, that's La Nina, cooler water in the Pacific. And then over the last 12 months, we kind of went neutral. And then over the last 6 months, we're warming it up. And that the El Nino is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And this was the last month. And the next one, it'll probably be above 2, which we consider a super El Nino. So what does that all mean? Well, when you get an El Nino, this is the area that we're talking about that's getting warmer, just here south of South America, Central America. And what happens is during the wintertime, we would expect a southerly jet stream to be more intense. That hasn't happened quite yet. The jet stream is still very strong. That's what's driving all these storms into the Pacific Northwest. As we go throughout the rest of winter, we expect that storm track to drift to the south, and we should get more action in big storms like the one we're getting now in areas of California, Nevada, and into Arizona. And then that storm track will dip through the southeast, and that's why everyone on the East Coast is saying, well, maybe we'll get some big snowstorms, because if this track happens, occasionally they can go up the coast as a nor'easter. Hasn't happened yet. It's still very early, but that's what we're expecting. But as of now, that active weather's all into the northwest. That's why we have all the flooding issues, many roads closed, that landslide onto the Amtrak tracks that has canceled all trains between Portland and Seattle. So all of the red maroon here is river flood warnings. We have seen one river, the Still-Guamish, all-time record high. It just crested. Now it's going to start going down. But these other big rivers just to the east here of Seattle, they're going to crest tomorrow. Rivers further to the south along the Oregon-Washington border, they'll be cresting in the next 2 or 3 days. So you can see huge rain amounts. It hasn't stopped. Seattle northwards, the rain will be lighter, but the heavy rain over the night tonight and into tomorrow will shift down towards Portland, and we could even see some additional flooding. And as far as rainfall totals go, as much as 2 to 4 on the coast, 3 to 5 in Northern California, and in the Cascades where we have the really bad flooding now, another 2 to 4 inches. And Hallie, here it is. This is today, tomorrow. This is Thursday's storm, and then this is Saturday's storm. They are lined up.
Bill Cairns lined up, and so are you, I know, for the next few days to talk us through all of it. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. New details tonight on that stunning explosion that leveled a house that was surrounded by police in Northern Virginia, with officials tonight now saying they believe the person inside died. Look at what happened here. Police had shown up to investigate a man who they say was firing a flare gun dozens of times. As they closed in, they heard shots fired. And the house, I mean, you saw it there. That was, it just blew off its foundation. It almost just melted down instantly. Neighbors reported feeling the shockwaves for miles. Locals say the homeowner, James Yu, was kind of a recluse who sometimes blocked out his windows with foil. NBC's Tom Costello is following this one for us. Tom, new details tonight with police saying they can't speculate on what may have set off that huge blast, the actual explosion. But there's a lot more coming out that we didn't know this morning. Talk us through it.
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to neighbors here who said that when they were watching this go down, they feared it was going to end badly because some neighbors say he was, in fact, a recluse, and he had been kind of gathering some chemicals in and around his house. They didn't know what they were going to be used for. But as for the timeline here, here's what happened. Police say they got a call at about 4:45 in the afternoon when the neighbors were saying that this guy inside was firing off a flare gun, 30 shots already. Police arrived. They tried to ask him to come out of the house. He refused. They were on the phone with him. They were negotiating with him. Were trying to negotiate. Wasn't responding. The fire department also responded. A SWAT team arrived. The SWAT team then started trying to make a forceful entry after the fire department turned off the gas. The SWAT team fired tear gas in it. This was at about 8 o'clock. And then at 8:25 p.m., this massive explosion that you saw. We don't know, according to police, they don't yet know what caused the explosion. Clearly, he had a flare gun. We don't know how many rounds. We don't know what kind of fuel might have been inside. Unbelievably, nobody else was injured. No serious injuries with the police and firefighters outside. 10 homes were damaged. None of the nearby residents, individuals were injured. So, you know, they really are counting their blessings here that nobody else was seriously injured. Mr. Yu himself did not have a known criminal record, but now they're looking for motivation. And the people I've talked to here say he acted very erratically. He covered up his windows with tin foil, that he went online and made threats against neighbors, alleged some people were spies, alleged he was a spy. It just was kind of a crazy few years that just culminated last night.
Just an incredible scene, Tom. As we say, almost unbelievable. Thank you very much for being there and for those new details late tonight from officials. Appreciate it. Tonight, new outrage in Alabama with one community there demanding more be done after a video was posted online showing a local officer stun gunning a man who's handcuffed and crying. We're going to show you the video, but we have to warn you, it is difficult to watch.
You want it again? Shut up, you was big and bad.
That footage was taken by the man's brother. You can see more of it here as he and the officer walk to the car. That officer is now on leave while agencies investigate. We should note it is not clear what happened before or after this 45-second clip. The man's girlfriend speaking with our station in Birmingham. Watch.
I couldn't do nothing but cry. I couldn't do nothing but cry.
I want to bring in Guad Venegas now for more. So, Guad, talk us through this and talk us through how the community is reacting here, because it seems like this incident has provoked real fury in the eyes of people who live in this area.
Hallie, the community was protesting Monday night. They are asking for the police department to take action, of course. So we were able to speak to Mika's brother, who recorded that video you just showed, and gave us some more insight as to what happened before that video was recorded. He said they had stopped on the side of the road to change a tire. And his brother Mika, who we see in the video, was changing the tire. He was on his knees when an officer arrived, the officer in the video, and that officer told them she had been called to come to their location for some reason, asked them for IDs. There was an argument where Mika told the officer he didn't want to share his ID, and then the officer said he needed to prove his identity. At some point, the officer, according to the brother I spoke to on the phone, asked Mika to walk over to her patrol car, and that's when he says she tased him the first time. He fell to the ground, and then that's where the video begins. So he told me that after he was tased once, the officer handcuffed him. He began recording that video, and then, of course, we know what happened after that. Now, that's the account from the brother. He says he's already speaking to authorities, and, of course, we saw the video, and we know what happened after that. Hallie?
Guad Venegas live for us there, covering all of it. Guad, thank you very much. Up on the Hill here in Washington, the FBI director is making a plea for Congress to try to save a controversial surveillance law. Talking about Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It's often shorthanded as 702. You might have heard it. It essentially lets the government keep a whole database of communications from so-called targets living abroad without ever needing a warrant to do that. Director Wray says this law, which was put in place after 9/11, is so important in the FBI's push to stop terror attacks in this country.
702 is key to our ability to detect a foreign terrorist organization overseas directing an operative here to carry out an attack in our own backyard.
The law has a lot of critics, though. We said it was controversial. It is. This summer, it was revealed that FBI agents allegedly used the database in ways they shouldn't, like to pull up information on targets related to the January 6th insurrection and the racial justice protests of 2020. Congress has until the end of the year to reauthorize 702, but some on both sides of the aisle say they want to see it seriously changed first. That sets up a potential drama over the next few weeks, one that we will be watching. Coming up here on the show, a deadly storm in India, forcing thousands of people to evacuate, what officials say they're on high alert for in the next 24 hours. Plus, why the investigation of the murders of 3 men in California is now expanding. So after years spent competing for subscriptions, some streaming companies are now forming partnerships. They are joining with competition to bundle services. Look at Verizon. My Plan customers starting this week are going to be able to pay $10 a month for Netflix and Max. It comes with ads. However, it's still like a 40% discount. It's one of the first times Netflix has ever offered a bulk discount for its content. Now, you may be saying, well, wait a second, Hallie, there's bundles. I know bundles. Look at Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus. They're a bundle. Yeah, they're a bundle, but they're all owned at least partly by the same company. In this instance, what makes Verizon's different is that it's one of the first to offer 2 competing streamers bundled together. Christine Romans is joining us now. A lot to unpack in that, but let me start with, first of all, who actually wins? Is this good for customers or is this good for companies?
It may be both here. For customers, especially people who don't want to pay the full freight for these services and would like to watch with ads for a 40% discount, sure, that's a win for the family budget. But also for the streamers, of course, they just got 100 million maybe eyeballs, right? Or sets of eyeballs, because they have access now to all of those people that Verizon serves. And Verizon is the one that has the credit card numbers and has the accounts and is able to do all the marketing. And so this is just opens up a whole new host of people to try to get more subscribers for those 2.
What's so interesting about this idea of bundling is, like, you know, the concept now is you pay one price, you get a bunch of different content. I'm old enough to remember when you paid one price and you got a bunch of different content, and we called it cable. I mean, the disruptor is now like the disrupted, it almost feels like.
It's almost like full circle, right? So the streamers were, you could choose which one you wanted to buy. You didn't have to buy the whole cable package, right? So you could choose what you wanted to buy, and it didn't have ads. Well, now we know that people are pretty cost conscious, right? So now you're going back to ads. You have all these different tiers of pricing. I think it's so interesting. And, you know, gosh, 87% of households have 1 or more streaming services. And I found when I was reporting the story that about 1/10 of households, 1 in 10 households, they have like at least 5. And I was talking to an executive at Verizon today who said their numbers are more like people right now have probably 5 that they're using, closer to 5. So even in the last year, we've been piling up on all of these different services. With all these different price points, though, it gets confusing, and there's a feeling that people are going to want more simplicity, right? And they're going to want to be able to cut the bill if they can.
I mean, like, you preach to the choir here, right? Like, we're on streaming right now, but I would love simplicity for, like, all of the other content out there. So do we think that other companies will start doing more of this, or is Verizon kind of uniquely positioned on this one?
I think absolutely yes, bundles is the way you're going to go. I've been talking to executives in this space all day today who say, look, they've been trying to find the secret sauce for this business model. As you know, it's been elusive. Netflix makes money. A lot of other companies have been playing a lot, you know, for programming and for content and to try to reach all of these eyeballs, but they haven't really been able to turn a profit. This might be the way, I think, now that they're thinking they're going to go. So I would be looking for more deals like this down the road.
Christine Romans, fascinating stuff. Thank you for breaking it down. Thank you so much.
How many do you have?
Can I tell you, this is going to be sad. I can barely turn my TV on, so I defer you to my partner in my household for that question. Probably 8. Like, no joke. We got them all, you know. So anyways, how many do you have?
I can't even count. I have 3 teenage boys, so we have any kind of sports network, we have it.
Okay, girl, gotcha. But thank you again, Christine. Appreciate it.
Unlimited streams for Christine. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, do you remember that string of LA murders of people experiencing homelessness we've been telling you about? Detectives are now expanding that investigation outside of Southern California to see if the man charged in those killings could be responsible for other unsolved cases. We'll see how that goes. Number 2, police in the Bahamas have just now identified the American tourist killed in a shark attack there yesterday as 44-year-old Lauren Erickson Van Wert from Massachusetts. They say she was paddleboarding right near the Sandals Resort when it happened. Sandals says it's deeply saddened. They're in close contact with her family. Number 3, a Black Texas high school student who we've talked about on this show is now getting sent back to in-school suspension today for refusing to change his hairstyle. The student, Daryl George, had apparently just come back to school after spending a month at a disciplinary program off-site. The school says the length of his hair violated its dress code. George has spent more than 80% of his junior year outside his regular class. His family has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the state's governor, attorney general, and the school district. Number 4, New York Governor Kathy Hochul just now announcing a special election will be held to fill the seat of this now former congressman, the man you see on your screen, George Santos, February 13th. So mark your calendars. That's when the Santos replacement will be voted on. Santos, of course, got expelled from the House of Representatives Friday. A historic expulsion, kicked out after a string of controversies and for lying about his background. He's now on Cameo, sending birthday wishes for $200 a pop. Number 5, Jamie Foxx here, getting emotional at his first public appearance since that mystery sickness had him basically vanishing earlier this year. Listen to what he said while accepting an award at a Critics' Choice event.
6 months ago, I couldn't actually walk to...
Getting emotional, saying he couldn't even walk 6 months ago. He went on to say this experience and left him with a new life, a new respect, rather, for life and for art. When we come back, 2023, now the worst year on record for mass shootings. And police say a new device puts even more lives at risk. What they want to see done in tonight's original. Plus, a potential big change to college sports, with the head of the NCAA is proposing to pay college athletes. A grim record tonight as 2 more shootings make 2023 the worst year for mass shootings since these nightmares have even been measured starting in 2006. The 2 this weekend happened within 90 minutes of each other, one in Texas, the other in Washington State. You see some of the scene video here. In all, 9 people were killed, including a toddler, bringing the total number of mass shootings this year to 38, according to the Washington Post. Law enforcement now also sounding the alarm over the use of something called a switch, which they say puts even more lives at risk. This device is a little piece of plastic that turns a semi-automatic gun into essentially a machine gun, meaning just one pull of the trigger can kill even more people, potentially. NBC's Kendall Anian has more.
Officer William Jeffrey knew danger lurked on the other side of the door, but he never expected this.
Dion, it's Houston Police. Let's do this thing.
Before he could get those words out, cut down by a burst of gunfire.
Somebody get Bill!
One of many victims of what police say is a growing threat, firearms illegally modified to shoot like machine guns.
My dad thought that he was Superman for Houston. I always said he had Superman syndrome. He thought that if he wasn't at work, the city was going to crumble without him. He loved being able to serve his community.
Jeffrey's daughter, Lacey, still grieving, says she was stunned to learn about the weapon that killed her father.
My father was shot more than a dozen times. Sorry. The amount of bullets that he was able to fire off in a matter of 10 seconds, as opposed to only pulling the trigger once and having to reload and doing it again. My dad could have probably gotten out of the way. He probably could have moved. But he didn't have a chance because of the rapid fire. He didn't stand a chance.
From his perch at the head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms,
special agents,
former federal prosecutor Stephen Dettelbach is the chief enforcer of the nation's gun laws.
Now, machine guns have been against the law in the United States, new machine guns, since 1934, the days of Al Capone and the Tommy gun. but we're seeing them all over the place.
Dettelbach invited us to a law enforcement gun range in Washington, D.C. to see how easily legal guns can be illegally modified and how dangerous those modified guns can be.
This is an example of a drop-in auto-sear. It's a machine gun conversion device. It looks like a small piece of plastic. It's deadly. The reason why is it just drops right into an AR and makes a lethal weapon. All you have to do is open up the AR, drop it in the appropriate place, close it, and you have an item that can kill scores of people in a second.
And people are buying these online, they're buying these from overseas.
They're buying these online, they're buying these from overseas, they're 3D printing them.
Here's a standard handgun, 1 round fired for every pull of the trigger. Here's that same gun, illegally modified. Similar devices modify assault rifles like the AR-15.
I talked to state and local police chiefs, sheriffs, our partners in federal law enforcement. They tell me to a person, it's raining switches.
Earlier this year, police in Pennsylvania were chasing a suspect
Watch that corner.
who had just killed a local police chief when he opened fire using a modified Glock. Police killed the assailant in a shootout.
Get on the ground, let me see your hands!
Authorities say switches like the one used in that gun have been flooding in from China, but also made at home.
I sat in a room, a printer that cost just shy of $200 sat there buzzing in the background for 30 to 40 minutes, and when it was done, a machine gun had been created.
An ATF report on crime guns found that the number of recovered machine gun conversion devices from 2017 to 2021 went up 570%.
He was more than just a cop. My dad was a great man.
Lacey Jeffrey, who used to get rides in her father's squad car, is among those pushing for tougher penalties for criminals who sell and use modification devices.
And if we can just harshen the punishments for these criminals that are getting caught with them and keep them behind bars longer, I feel like it's extremely important, and it would be very helpful for our communities.
Ken Delaney is joining us now with more on this important reporting. Ken, the ATF director was very clear with you. This problem is getting worse. They're concerned about it. What can they do from a solution perspective, short of an act of law, an act of Congress?
You know, Hallie, the reality is these things are already illegal. The ATF just doesn't have enough agents to do the kind of nationwide enforcement that is necessary. There have been some calls from lawmakers that the ATF should change gun regulations and require makers like Glock to make this more difficult to accomplish, to change the designs of their guns. But that's a controversial step, and the ATF is in a number of regulatory battles right now with the gun industry and gun dealers, and there just isn't the political appetite, it seems, to take that on. The reality is it's really difficult to regulate guns in this country, even when people are doing things that are illegal, Hallie.
Ken Delaney, and thank you very much for that. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of India, a powerful tropical storm is hitting land in the south of that country today, killing at least 13 people with the intense flooding and rain even before the storm hit. Huge waves ended up swallowing whole towns on the coast. Thousands of people had to evacuate. More rain is expected over the next 24 hours. Out of France, the country's parliament approving a ban of single-use disposable e-cigarettes. It's a push to try to protect younger people who might like the flavors and to try to mitigate any effect on the environment. It still needs backing from the country's Senate, but if it's approved, it'll go into effect next fall. Out of Canada, a fugitive caught by police yesterday, a fugitive kangaroo. Yes, a kangaroo on the run for 4 days. On the hop? I don't know. It escaped while being transferred between two zoos outside of Toronto. It even resisted arrest, apparently punching a police officer in the face while being captured. Okay. The president of the NCAA today proposing what could be the most radical plan yet to try to reshape college sports. He says he wants to make a new tier of D1 schools where schools can pay players directly. Schools that agree to this deal would be able to go into NIL, name, image, likeness deals directly with those athletes. Remember, we've been following this story about that fight over NIL. Our Noah Pransky talking with the NCAA head, Charlie Baker, after this hoops session about the whole thing and the conflicts that surround it just last month. That's why Noah is here with us now talking to us about this new development today. Noah, it's a story that you have been the tip of the spear on for our show from the reporting perspective. So now today, this pretty stunning announcement, right? How would this work? What would it mean? Help us understand it.
So I think it's safe to say amateurism is dead at this point. Basically, the NCAA president proposed a set of rules that would allow big-time, basically football schools across the country to opt into a super division. They would then set aside millions and millions of dollars for student athletes. They could basically pay them whatever they wanted, and then they would create their own rules for that super division, and they would fully separate essentially from the rules as we know for D1. Why is this necessary? Well, Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, told me basically the NCAA is becoming a wild, wild west. We have athletes transferring as free agents. We have money flying around. Nobody can even keep track. He told me back in the end of October that this is a way to try and corral those abuses.
Football right now and men's and women's basketball is paying for an enormous amount of other sports that we care about a lot. It's paying for all those non-revenue sports that are about Olympic participation, that are about the growth in women's sports generally. And so for us, again, we got to figure out what the framework is that makes it possible for everybody to live together.
He says that framework will help preserve opportunities for athletes moving forward, and then he's calling on Congress to help solidify these and, you know, put them in writing so that they can't be changed down the road.
Okay, so, but in plain English, right, does this mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this like good news for very rich schools, not so good news for the ones with less money?
I don't think it's that clear cut. It's nuanced. So if I'm a fan of Ohio State or Texas or the really richest schools out there, I'm thrilled because the rich will get richer. If I'm a fan of a small school, maybe D2, D3, or a really small D1 school, maybe I'm also thrilled because this could help protect those programs. But if I'm a program, you know, Boston College, Virginia Tech, one of like kind of the mid-ranked football schools, this could be trouble because as the rich get richer, the schools that don't have those huge resources are not going to be well positioned to compete. Now, let's look at some of the reaction today that we saw online. Ohio State's athletic director, Geno Smith, really just glowing. Thank you, 100% supportive. But let's compare that to another reaction, Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is a well-resourced school, but not quite like Ohio State. And this reaction from their athletic director, a little more, you know, tepid. We have much work to do here, and that reemphasizes the fact that this is just a proposal. There will be pushback from a lot of schools. We'll see where the final lines land.
We've also covered NIL a lot on this show from the perspective of the athletes, right? And there are going to be some athletes here who may not be in line for these like humongo deals. What does it mean for the players themselves?
So there's some good news and some maybe questions here. One of the proposals that Charlie Baker laid out says Title IX must be enforced. So if you're going to pay a football player $20 million, that means $20 million in the way it appears also needs to go to female athletes. So it is a way to really lift some of the female athletes who may not be getting big paychecks. But at the same time, there are questions. Will this trickle all the way down to all the sports, or will it be concentrated in just the big sports? Hallie, we'll see.
Noah Pransky, and when we do, you will let us know, I'm sure. Thank you so much. Coming up here on the show, trying to get health experts to cough up answers about cold medicines, why some of these drugs are still on store shelves if they don't really do anything. That's the question Congress is asking after the break. So we're just hearing from the FDA in the last couple of minutes, responding to a letter from Congress that basically says, come and explain why it took so long to tell people that an ingredient in popular cold medicines doesn't actually work. Remember, we told you about this months ago when the FDA said that after decades on the market, certain over-the-counter drugs that are supposed to help with congestion, things that include phenylephrine that the FDA says is no more effective in treating your stuffy nose than basically a placebo, than a hope and a dream. So, okay, this drug doesn't work. Now, House Republicans are leading the charge to try to get FDA officials up to Capitol Hill to explain what took so long to tell people that all this medicine you've been buying over the counter for decades really isn't going to help you that much. Dr. Natalie Azar is joining us now. So, then what should we be doing?
You know what, Hallie, there are things that we can do, but just to touch on your point of how is it taking this long? It's been since 2007 since the FDA has been evaluating the efficacy data. And so we are all very anxious to hear how the FDA is going to decide on this. You know, the advisory committee is the one that said that these medications are no better than placebo. The FDA has not officially made that determination yet. So, you know, all eyes and ears are on that. In terms of other things you can do nasal antihistamines, you can do nasal steroid, you can do nasal saline rinses, you can do neti pots with sterile water. Remember, the medicine that was deemed ineffective is oral phenylephrine. That's oral decongestant. There is still a nasal decongestant that's still available. However, experts say only use it for no more than 3 days because it can cause rebound congestion.
Why would the FDA not say, okay, drugstores, get this stuff off your shelves? Because there's some companies like Walgreens, Rite Aid that are essentially saying, unless there's a mandate, like they're just going to keep selling it. What's the plan?
Well, listen, I mean, those pharmacies, I'm assuming, I'm not going to speak for them, but I'm assuming it's money is the bottom line there. CVS voluntarily recalled only Sudafed PE, and they specifically said that we're only taking off the counter, off the shelves, products that contain only phenylephrine. Everything else is still there, Hallie. So Tylenol that also contains phenylephrine, other combination cough and cold medicines, they're still selling that as well. You know, CVS basically said we're trying to follow the FDA advisory committee's guidance here, and if the medicine is no better than placebo, we're not going to sell it to our consumers. But it's a mess. I mean, this determination came down in September. Now we're 3 months later, and the FDA has still not made its final decision. You know, I think I'm being generous when I say that they have been moving very slowly on this, but you know, I think all of us really want to hear them see and hear them do the right thing here, and probably no longer give these medications their seal of over-the-counter approval.
Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you very much for breaking that down. Lots of good info there.
The only way we're going to get through this is by sticking together, being a team. Trust.
Trust. The trailer for one of the most highly anticipated video games ever. It's here, the trailer, finally. Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that is a decade in the making. And for people waiting all that time, they got the trailer a little bit earlier than expected. It was supposed to be out today, but it leaked overnight. So Rockstar Games, which makes GTA, basically said, all right, fine. They put out the whole official trailer ahead of schedule, and people are going bananas. One person said, you can't put into words the feeling that we all get. Another said, history created. And that's true for a lot of people. It is not just a game. It is history. GTA is like the holy grail of gaming. It goes through generations here. 25-year-old series. And the money it makes, that money talks. Money happens to be something the gaming industry really needs right now. It's had a brutal year with layoffs. This game alone, Grand Theft Auto, it's estimated to make $3.5 billion when it launches, just when it launches. To put that in perspective, Avatar, the biggest movie of all time, in all grossed $3 billion. So we're talking like bananas profits. I want to bring in Callan Rosenblatt, who's covering this one for us today. It is like everywhere today. I feel like if you're online, you can't escape some kind of GTA talk. There's a lot of hype about this. There's a lot of excitement from fans, but there's still a long time they're going to have to wait for the actual game itself.
Yeah, Hallie, when you quoted that fan saying it gives you all the feels, I feel the same way. Like, it puts a smile on my face just hearing that trailer. It's so exciting that this game is finally here. We've waited 10 years for this GTA, and for many gamers, this isn't just about GTA 6. This game is about to celebrate its 25th anniversary. The series is about to celebrate its 25th anniversary. This is a game with a really long history, and for the last 10 years, fans have been looking for clues and looking for Easter eggs from Rockstar as to when this game would drop, what it would entail, and finally they have some of those answers.
I mean, there are literally millennials, like, and as one of them, I can speak with some authority in here, who grew up with this game, right? I mean, 25 years, who were like teenagers when this came out, played the OG version, and have been doing all the iterations since then. But what's so interesting about this specific moment today, This is not just a culture story, Callan. It is a business story in a very real way. Because as you have reported here, there are some people who feel like right now it almost has funeral vibes in the gaming industry because of all the layoffs this year. They've been hit hard.
Yeah, they've been hit really hard. As you mentioned, one expert I spoke with described the mood in the industry as a funeral. She said it's never been so bleak. And that's because estimates put it at 6,500 jobs being laid off in the gaming industry this year alone. Some estimates put it as high as 8,000, and that's comparative to last year where the estimates were about 1,000. So the gaming industry really hurting right now. Some say that's because it's, in the pandemic, we were playing more video games, and some are saying that people, or studios rather, invested a lot of money in games that even when the money came in, they were already in a hole, so it didn't do that much in order to recoup their losses. Now, people are praying that GTA brings this money back into the industry. And they're hoping that with the money comes the jobs, and it will put the gaming industry back in swing, and we will see more games like GTA 6 on the horizon.
Of course, the question is, can GTA 6 single-handedly lift up the industry in the way that I think some people expect it to, Callan?
Yeah, I think the thing is, there is no game like GTA. GTA has this specific fan base, and as you mentioned, it is poised to make billions of dollars, billions with a B. There is no game that brings this kind of financial revenue, and so a lot of developers are hanging their hopes on this. I think they have a really good shot at getting what they're wishing for.
Callan Rosenblatt, they just have to wait a couple more years to actually see the game itself. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.